Salut, I'm Peach and I am back in Canigaran. But today I took my RF800mm F11 and we will try that. And fortunately this is a beautiful day. We have a wonderful sunrise there and hopefully we will get some nice pictures. And there is a stork kingfisher right there just landing, so I will start by photographing that bird. I'm already feeling the frame. I will go shutter speed 250. I will up my exposure compensation a bit. We are at ISO 1250. Oh, beautiful. I will make a video. Here it is. Now do something funny. Yeah, that's it. More. So about 1 month ago, I think I came already with my RF100 to 400. And if you want to see that video, by the way, the link is over there, I guess. And at that time, I didn't have my RF800 F11 because it was in Manila to be repaired. And it came back sharper than before. So now we have a beautiful day, and we will try to see what we can get with that lens. So the goal for now is to go somewhere there in the middle, and then I will go low. And once you get low, the bird, especially the shorebird, they don't care anymore about you. They can come very close, and hopefully not too close, because the minimum focus range of that 800mm is 6 meters. So it happened to me already that some shorebirds come too close to me, so I could not take a photo. And it's a strategic move from me, because actually the birds are over there, and once some people wake up and go collect some shell, and they will arrive from this way, from there, and the birds will probably transfer here. So I will be surrounded by egrets later, hopefully. What a nice place to be on a Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. What do you think? Do you like the view? So while we are waiting for some birds to come closer, I was thinking I could talk to you a bit about that RF800mm. Why I bought it, why it's a nice lens, and what I don't like about it as well. So the first good things about that lens is that it's cheap. It's under 1,000. I think it's $899 US, and that's probably the cheapest good 800mm lens that you can buy, actually. So the second things I like about that lens is that it is sharp enough. It is sharp. It's a sharp lens. At f11 you start to get some diffraction, and I think that's why it's a bit less sharp than my RF100 to 400. But I'm still very happy with the sharpness of that RF800. Another thing that's good is the autofocus. It works well, at least on birds, on bigger birds, or on birds that are not too fast, like those swallow that are just here flying around me. You will never see them, they're too small for my GoPro. But the autofocus works well on egrets, eagles, or whatever bigger, slower birds, and that's good. Another thing that's cool about that lens is that it looks quite big now in shooting position, but if you want to put it in your bag, you can collapse it, and you have quite a small size, probably the smaller 800mm on the market. Another good thing about that lens is that it has a control ring, and you can program a lot of things with that ring. I programmed it to be my exposure compensation ring. So I forgot to tell you that that lens is only 1 kilo 260 gram, which make it probably the lightest good 800mm lens that you can find on the market right now. And that's important for a lot of people. That's important for me, because I don't want to carry 4 or 5 kilo of gears all day when I'm walking, especially in that kind of place. So the aperture is a fixed f11. You cannot go higher or lower. That's something I can understand, because that's what makes the price so low as well. And something that could be better is that this lens is sharp enough, and I would be very happy if it was as sharp as my RF100 to 400 for example. But it's okay. So the tide is going up slowly, and it's time to reach the shore. It's also time to look at some pictures that I took those last 3 days, because of course I came already 3 times to take a maximum of good pictures for that video. So let's have a look and let's talk about it. Alright, let's have a look at those pictures, all taken with the Canon RF800mm F11. Here we have a medium aigrette in flight, obviously. The shutter speed is 0.002 of a second. The ISO is 3200. You can see that I managed to not blow up too much the whites. The noise has been easily removed by Topaz Denoise AI that I ran before the editing process. We have a good focus on the head and on the left wing. There is a good contrast between the bird and his natural habitat. No color fringing or things of that nature, except a little bit over here, which is visible only if you zoom in a lot. It can be removed in your favorite editing software anyway. Let's move on to the next picture. Here is what I suspect to be a grey-tailed tattler. The shutter speed is 1600 of a second. The ISO is 4000. There is no direct sunlight on the subject, and I would say that even though that picture is not bad at all, it is usually much better when there is some kind of good light hitting the subject. It helps, especially with that 800mm. Also, I hear a lot that this lens is better paired with the R6 or the R5 or maybe the R3. Yeah, maybe. I cannot really say, I don't own those cameras. But look there, shutter speed 1600 of a second, ISO 4000, no sunlight. What do you think? At least with my R7 I don't have to crop a lot. Let's move on. Here same bird, only 10 grams heavier. Same lack of good light, but this time the shutter speed is 2500 of a second and the ISO is 6400. Same denoising process before editing. We still have a good image, but at 6400 ISO you don't want to push too much the contrast slider. Here this image may be a bit softer but without noise, and here is an image where I added a bit of contrast and you can see that there is a bit more noise. Of course you could add some contrast only to the bird or remove some clarity from the background, but that was to show you an example. I think it's called clarity slider in Lightroom and structure slider in Luminar Neo. I'm working with Luminar Neo, by the way. I must point out that with or without contrast you have to zoom quite a lot to actually see the noise. Those are two medium aigrettes, shutter speed 2000 of a second, ISO only 640. We have a direct early morning sunlight. Exposure compensation is down 1 stop. There is a little bit of purple fringing on the front edge of that wing, only noticeable if you zoom in a lot. I could have removed that in post-editing actually. I think one of those two aigrettes saw me approaching with my camera ready to fire, and she panicked a bit, which made the other jump as well. There is a bit of motion blur here and there, but it's still a funny photo. I think I was too close to frame them both. Another medium aigrette, buzzy with some kind of heel. That prey looks more like a fish than like a worm because of the shape of the mouth and the flat tail. Shutter speed is 2000 of a second, ISO is 800. No color fringing, no chromatic aberration. Good sharpness on the eye, unlightened by the early morning sunlight. I like that kind of picture with some real life action in it. I know for you it looks more like a wood sandpiper, but it's probably because I pushed a bit the golden hour slider in Lightroom. I'm still convinced this is a great-tailed tattler. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment below. If you have any question, don't hesitate. Any question will actually help my channel, as well as any likes. As usual, shutter speed 2000ths of a second, ISO 2000. I will not zoom in because I see now that I added too much contrast, but I can assure you that I don't see any chromatic aberration or color fringing. The noise level is minimum. You can see that a nice light changes everything. Same bird, but way better image in my opinion. Overall, a nice picture. Let's move on. Another egret, another style. Shutter speed 2000ths of a second, ISO 800, exposure compensation down 2 stops. Again, I managed to not blow up the whites. I'm getting better at it, except maybe a little here. I could have used a bit higher shutter speed to make sure to freeze any action and still get around 1000 ISO. No major color problems with that image. That little egret was like a top model for me that day. Shutter speed 2000ths of a second, ISO 320, exposure compensation down 2 stops. A bit of a harsh sunlight. It is probably 9 AM, the sun is out since 3 hours. The whites are a bit blown up on the left side of that bird, but overall nice colors and a nice portrait. Nice photo, good focus and lovely colors. This is a stock build kingfisher. For that one I used a shutter speed of 200ths of a second. The ISO was 500 only. It was very early in the morning, the sun was out since 20 minutes only. I was just at 20 meters in front of him, as you saw in the video. So I tried to get a very low ISO. That kingfisher is still wet from his last dive, and really an amazing bird, very beautiful. Okay, last picture. There will be more picture at the end of the video. So this one is my favorite, one of my favorite photo captured in Canigaran. You have the contrast of the bird with his natural habitat in the background. There is some action happening. The water disturbed by the wings is quite cool as well. We have a good focus on the head, and I managed to not blow up too much the whites. The shutter speed is 2000ths of a second, the ISO is 2000, and actually this is quite cropped a bit. Here is the original. Also I want to show you the difference between denoising before and after the editing process. For that image I used the denoise AI before, and as you can see it's quite clean. And for this one I edited the image first, and then I used the Topaz denoise AI after editing, using the standard mode. You can see that it's quite horrible, but of course only if you zoom in. So it's time to go. Tide is too high even for the egrets now. They like only the low tide, so they can catch the worms, the eels, the crabs, then everything, probably everything. So I hope you liked my little video. I am planning to visit the whole Palawan, so if you want to know more about Palawan and about the wildlife that we can find here, like and subscribe, and you will be notified by YouTube about my future future videos. And thank you very much, and see you on the next one.